Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Perfect Franchise Podcast. My name is Kris Simonich, and my co-host is Andrea Floyd. And on this podcast, we try to pick apart some of the best brains in franchising. Today, the plan is to do just that with co-founder and CEO of Ivybrook, Drew McWilliams. Drew, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to speak with both of you and hopefully have some words of wisdom and nuggets that your franchise audience can pick apart and learn from.
Yeah, it's great. So Drew, we talked about this a little bit, when you jumping in, we love anything in the children's space at the Perfect Franchise. And so we're so happy to have you on. Give us sort of the background, the origin story behind Ivybrook Academy and how did you create this franchise?
Yeah, I've got to give all my credit to my wife. I will very humbly say I married up in life and don't mind admitting that to millions of people, out there in the world in brains and beauty. But origin story is my wife and I are college sweethearts actually from Pennsylvania. And we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. We'll call it close to 25 years ago, kind of dating myself. And my wife was a first grade teacher. That's what she went to school for. And did a great job in teaching first graders for several years. And my background was in business and real estate and marketing. And one day my wife was coming home from teaching first grade. This is before we even had children, when we were in our 20s. And my wife came home and said, the children that are coming through my doors as first graders, they are just not even prepared. They don't know ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. And I'm spending half of the year just to get them up to the level of where they should be entering. And I think we live in a very good public education area. And she says, there has to be a better way to give all these children a better head start. And I said, okay, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about that? And that's exactly how Ivybrook Academy got started. Is my wife said, I'm going to figure out a way to make our country and our world a better place and educate our children. And Ivybrook Academy got started from that one conversation of her wanting to make a better place. And I had an entrepreneurship spirit in me. Little did I know it was going to be in the education or teaching space. I thought it would be in the business space where I came from. And that's kind of the origin story of how we first got to Ivybrook Academy getting started.
Yeah, and I think we hear that story even from our clients where they're like, I never thought I'd get into this. And so you sort of branched into that preschool space and then you ended up franchising. So walk us through that a little bit. How did you created one business and then how did you ultimately decide to franchise that business?
Yeah, if you would have even asked me, 8 years ago what franchising was, I would have said it's McDonald's and everyone else that's in the fast food space. I had no idea how expansive the franchising world is. I hear reports, off and on about, 1 out of every 5 businesses in America is a franchise. I mean, there's some amazing statistics that are out there about how much franchising impacts, our country and the world, and it kind of flies under the radar, right? It's amazing how many different industries and brands are out there that we utilize every day. But when we first got started, first it's a big scary jump. Being a business owner, right? Being a business owner. There is a lot of discussions to have of, do I want to do this? When's the right time? First of all, if you're thinking about being a business owner, my nugget of wisdom, the first share is just do it, right? Because people talk and talk and talk, and then 5 years goes by in their life, and then 10 years. And then after 20 years, they're like, oh man, we should have done this 20 years ago. Now we're too old. So if you're thinking about it now, then, you should talk to very smart people like both of yourself to try to get more education and just figure out what the options are. But when Ivybrook first got started, we started talking about this actually on my wife and I on our honeymoon, believe it or not, on a plane. The stewardess comes up and down the aisle and says, what soft drink would you like, and gives you a cocktail napkin. And my wife and I had this discussion of, hey, you want to start a business, maybe in this preschool space, give children a head start. And I gave her a napkin and I said, what would that school look like? And I gave her a pen and a napkin, a cocktail napkin on an airplane. And she drew what is now the blueprint of our first school that has been open for 18 years. 18 years. And we still have that cocktail napkin. So that was how we first got started, because now we had a vision, right? And we accomplished that vision. When we opened the school, we opened one, I guess it's now called the corporate location. Although I hate the word corporate because every franchisee tries to escape corporate America to come be a franchise. So I'm very negative against that word, but opened our first location. It was so wildly successful beyond my imagination. We were in the black, if anybody knows financial terms. We were in the black day one. And we quickly realized that we outgrew our space, and we quickly started looking and building a second location. So we had 2 corporate locations, and we had that for 10 years. And our plan was just, we were a Charlotte-based school. We're probably going to open up a third, and kind of that was our vision, and that was our dream. Never heard the word franchising in my life. And what happened then was in Charlotte, we're a very transient city. So people are moving in, people are moving out, getting job transfers around the country. They would have to move, disenroll their children from our school. We have a wait list and backfill people, which is pretty easy. But all of our schools have a PTA, or a parent teacher association. And our PTA president, her husband got a job transfer. And what happened next was really remarkable. And I'll never forget it. But she moved to Iowa, of all places, Iowa. And she called my wife. By being the PTA president, you get the cell phone number of my wife and I guess. And she called my wife for 30 days crying, saying, my 2 older children graduated from your program, and my 3rd youngest, I feel them regressing, and they're not having the same educational head start as my older 2. You need to come to Iowa. And to this day, we're like, I remember my wife having the conversation, Heather, I love you. We're not moving to Iowa. Like we're in Charlotte. And she called my wife relentlessly every day for 30 days. And that was really the trigger for, my wife and I saying, okay, this is not just a need in Charlotte for children to have a good quality education. It's elsewhere. And we just had 10 years of people doing kind of market research for us and calling us and telling us there's no one out there. And our big thing is, we don't do anything, my wife and I, unless our head and our heart align. And for my wife, she goes, oh my gosh, Drew, there's thousands of children out there across the country that need our help. We need to figure out a way to expand, grow. And my head goes, we just had 10 years of people calling us and saying, we don't have a competitor. We got to go do this before someone else does. So that's our head and our heart alignment. And then we went down the rabbit hole of how to do it. What's the best way? And discovered franchising. Love franchising so much that I've spent a lot of time the last 8 years in franchising, going through a very high level education program called a CFE. So I'm a certified franchise expert. And I've just fallen in love with it because everybody is, my analogy is pulling the rope in the same direction. The franchisor wants the franchisee to win because when the franchisee wins, I win. But I have a very vested interest having the franchisee win, right? It's we're all working in the same direction. So I know there's a really long-winded answer how I got into franchising, but I hope that gives some color and some character of the why behind it, because people get into certain things for different reasons.
That's awesome. It's awesome. You still have that cocktail napkin. Love that.
Drew, let's back up a little bit. So you decide to go in a franchising direction. Describe for the listeners, the watchers, exactly what is Ivybrook offering as far as a business opportunity? Because you said earlier when you thought about franchising, you thought McDonald's, and you certainly didn't think preschool, right? But the reality is there are other preschool franchises, other daycare franchises, other children's franchises. So specifically, what's Ivybrook offering, and how is it different than some of the other offerings out there?
Yeah, what's our unique selling proposition? Where are we positioned in the market? Because and I hear that a lot too. It's very easy for people to say, hey, you cater to children between the ages of 1 to 6. That's everyone's grouped in this big bucket of a daycare. But the analogy is, if you're looking at vehicles, would you compare a Chevy Nova to a Ferrari? I mean, they both have four wheels and they'll get you to point A to point B, but it's a little bit of a different style, a little bit of a different model, a little bit of a different experience, I would say. And that's where Ivybrook lands. We create and we have tailored a different experience. The daycares of the world are numerous and they serve an amazing need in our society. They cater to dual working parents that need a great, safe place for their children to be between 7 a.m. to maybe 6 p.m. They have breakfast there, they have lunch there. There's probably some academic component to it, but it's a lot play-based. There's some naps to it. Where we fall into the market and what our experience is we cater to the stay-at-home and the work-from-home parent. And I'll tell you, the last 4 years, the stay-at-home population, man, has that helped us. That has only magnified the demand for our program more than anything. And I don't see that going away. I mean, now that people got used to it, like it's pretty awesome. So what we do is we run 2 different shifts per day. They're both 4-hour shifts of education. So again, the stay-at-home parent, the parent that elects to stay home to be with their child, they still want them to have education, a head start, socialization. You don't want your child to go off to kindergarten or first grade. They've never been in an educational environment. And the first day of school, the teacher says, "Okay, kids, line up." You and I as adults know what line up means. If a child has never heard the term "go stand in line," that might rock their world. I don't know. Like just simple little things like that. That's the socialization component. The academic component comes in, the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. I've got, and you've got nonprofit organizations out there that might do preschools. And it's really cute. I went to one, a religious-based center. I traced my hand at Thanksgiving. I turned it into a turkey for my parents. It was really cute. I've got 3-year-olds at my school that are doing Venn diagrams, making stained glass windows, and learning Spanish. I mean, it's just a little bit. Again, if you're comparing vehicles, you also got to compare educational philosophies of what are children learning at a young age to better set them up for success at later years to come, because it's all building blocks. The more you learn and they're sponges at those young ages, you're just going to be able to build on those for future years to come and set them up for further success as an adult.
Excellent. Excellent. Drew, this is a brick and mortar franchise, right? And one of the questions that we get a lot is just what's Ivybrook looking for in a location? Sometimes that can be a concern for our clients.
Yeah, I hear that a lot too. And if somebody has never gotten into commercial real estate before, it's probably scary, right? Anything that you haven't done before is probably scary. I've never quit my W-2 job before. That's scary. I've never opened my own business. That's scary. A brick and mortar. But here's the thing. Whether it's Ivybrook or someone else, if you do your due diligence, you educate yourself, and you partner with the right franchise and brand, they should be doing all the heavy lifting and all the work for you, so you can just focus on being a business owner. And that's what I tell all of our franchisees. I don't want you to learn real estate. I don't want you to learn construction. I don't want you to learn, how to do, marketing. That's why we hire extremely good people. And I either have them on staff or I have preferred vendors that have national contracts to do all that heavy lifting for people. So as far as the real estate wise, we have a great ability to be pretty flexible in the spaces we find, in size, and also in types of different zoning, which allows us to be able to get in the communities and into the neighborhoods to cater to those customers, parents, students. You got 2 sets of customers to be able to fit those needs best. So I've got a really great program I'm really excited about, kind of our rollout. We're now at 104 locations nationally that we've awarded over 18 different states in the last 8 years. And people wouldn't be signing up if we didn't have processes and systems, ironed out and in place for them.
That's great. That's great. So you're really actively helping them find this location. And I think you started to hit on, your half-day program. There's advantages to that half-day program, which includes the size of the location. teachers. Tell us a little bit about those advantages of a half-day program.
Yeah, advantages. And again, my half-day preschool program, different than a daycare. Again, great need in our society. In a typical daycare across the country, a national daycare chain, they're going to be looking at about a 12,000 square foot facility. I'm looking at a 6,000 square foot facility. You want to cut the rent in half? That's a quick way to do it really quickly. Second is full day daycares. They require busing. I don't have busing service because I have a stay-at-home or a work from home parent that is able to transport their child. So that's going to reduce, a lot as well. And then lastly, there is no kitchen facilities. We aren't serving food. We're not cooking and prepping food. That is a big advantage to us as well, where the labor force you're going to find at a full day daycare, you typically have about 40 people on salary or on hourly as employees. That's a lot. If I've never been an employer before or a small business owner to go from managing 0 people to 40, that's a struggle. Our max employment per location is 15. 15. I have no cooks. I have no bus drivers. I have 1 shift of workers. You got to remember, when you're at a full day daycare and you're open from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m., you can't work people 12 hours a day. You have to have 2 shifts of employees. So those are kind of the big unseen advantages that I believe that we possess over a daycare brand.
Yeah, that's a lot of advantages for someone looking in and evaluating different types of businesses that are preschools that are focused on education like you are, having a great curriculum, but then also where the economics lie, and then where are some of the other advantages to really provide value to you as an owner. That's great.
As far as economics, that's a really good point. Where we're considered a private preschool, where parents are paying they pay an annual tuition that we give them the ability to break into monthly payments. By touting us that way, parents are paying a reoccurring revenue stream. Okay, most of our customers, if they have 1 child, they're there for a minimum of 3 years. We have many families, they have 3 children spaced apart, and they're there for 9 straight years. You want to talk about a dependable reoccurring revenue stream to keep somebody for 9 straight years is pretty amazing. But in addition, in our model, we follow the academic school year for the public school that we're in that county for. So that being said, we're closed for 2 weeks for a winter break. I'm closed for spring break. I'm closed all these times where parents are still, and my customers are still paying for our private monthly model. Whereas a daycare, you can't do that. You can't close 2 weeks at winter break. You can't close for spring break because dual working parents still have to go to work. Work doesn't shut down. So our model allows our franchisees to be able to have that consistent revenue stream, but we're closed about 32 days per year where revenue is still coming in, but they get to stay home with their family, because work-life balance is just as important to me as it is all my franchisees that sign up to be part of our brand.
That's excellent. Sticking with this topic of economics, you mentioned when you've opened the first Ivybrook that you were cash flow positive from day one. And while I know we can't guarantee that for all your franchises, I wish we could, but you do have programs where the franchisees are signing up families, students, however you want to quantify your customer, before the school's even open, so that when it's open, they've got some revenue coming in. Can you talk a little bit more about how that works?
Yeah, it's kind of our pre-enrollment process. That's what we call it. We have the great ability to be able to sign up and enroll families before the doors even open. So, a lot of that is hard work. And again, you're exactly right. There is no guarantee of how many students are necessarily going to be enrolled. But what I can guarantee, the more people are out in the community, the more people are marketing, the more people that have drive ahead of the doors opening. Again, just like we want to give children building blocks and give them a better success ramp, it's the exact same with any single business, whether it's Ivybrook or something else. If you're out there and you're, the old term is pounding the pavement, passing out flyers, being mayor, shaking hands, kissing babies, and promoting your business, guess what? That's going to come back tenfold to you. So I'm a big believer in, I have high drive, and I'm going to make sure that anytime that I personally am going to open a business myself, that I'm backing, that I need to be doing everything I can to be able to set myself up for success, which equally is going to set up your employees, your customers, right? It's a domino effect in helping everybody. So yes, those plans, those processes are in place. But I'll tell you, the secret sauce is really getting out in the community. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind what any business somebody gets into, really getting out there and not hiding behind a computer, working, out there in your business, not on your business, makes a big difference these days.
So Drew, hit on that a little bit more. Let's talk about your ideal candidate, because you're talking about somebody who's out there, kissing babies, shaking hands. What does that look like? Are they somebody that they were in education before and now they're opening a preschool like your wife, or what are you looking for?
Yeah, I'm looking for great human beings. That's the quick answer to that. What does that mean? Why do I say that? People that are our Ivybrook franchisees have an amazing, I'll call them golden heart. That matters more to me and to my wife more than a resume or a balance sheet. If someone is leaning between, I want to open up a sandwich shop, a gas station, Ivybrook, I'm quickly going to say Ivybrook's not for you. I mean, there's no doubt about that. The perfect candidate is someone that, they typically have children. Out of 104 franchises awarded, I have 2 that don't have children. 2. That's it. So obviously there is a passion play or a golden heart that is a soft spot, that they understand education. They have a love of children. They don't necessarily have to be a teacher. I would probably say, I don't know, maybe 10%, 15 tops percent of my franchisees maybe have an education background. It's not a lot. Most people would think it would be higher. My best 2 franchisees, yeah, one was a teacher, but one came from corporate America, in sales. So I think the person that is the best candidate is someone that understands and resonates with the brand. And when you're passionate about something, no matter what it is, you're probably going to work a little harder on it, right? You're probably going to go the extra mile. You're probably going to talk about it with passion whenever you're talking to customers or taking a phone call, right? So people that understand what their passion is, I think can get behind kind of our brand or someone else a little bit more and probably help take them to that next level.
Okay, so they don't have to be an educator. We're hearing 10 to 15%. That's lower than I expected. They have to be somebody who's passionate about that. So that could be somebody who's at that second phase in their life where maybe they have grandkids, or they're looking at, do you have a lot of people? Are they all younger? They have little kids? Are they looking to be full-time in the business, semi-absentee? Give us a little more color to that.
Perfect. I love that question. I would say, let me give you kind of the average or the median of my franchisee. They typically have children that are in high school. They have it's a married couple, children in high school. Some are a little younger, some are a little older. I'm just giving you kind of the median here. The one spouse is able to jump into the business right away, whether it's working, part-time or whatever. We don't want full absentee owner. I just want to make that very clear. You got to live in the market that you want to open in, and you have to spend some time in the business. It doesn't have to be 40 hours. I don't want someone buying a job, but you got to have a little bit of, in the business time. And then the second spouse is in corporate America and says, I've got a year or 2 left. I just got to get out. And this is kind of a transition plan for them. So one spouse will start working on the business for a year or 2, while the other one has an exit strategy. They want to get out of corporate America before they're 65. And this is a great transition to build the book of business, build the revenue stream. And it's a great launching pad for them to be able to step back, own their own business. And what I've seen now that we've been franchising for 8 years, all of my first franchisees that sign up for a single location, right? When we're brand new, it's kind of a little bit of a risk factor. I'm just going to sign up for one. Now, most people are signing up for 2 or 3, right? We're a little bit more of a proven entity. all those people that sign up for one, they're all coming back, and they've almost all bought a second location this year. It's a really fulfilling thing to see that we've led people right over the last 8 years, that they're now coming back to take a second bite of the apple, which has been a great, intrinsically rewarding feeling.
Yeah. Drew, what do you say to folks who say, I love the idea of a business, around children, but boy, that liability, it scares me. What do you say to them?
Yeah, good question. Here's the liability. Here's the two biggest liability things. And I kind of touched on this a little bit before. Liability comes with food services. I don't want to cook, prep, or serve meals. Okay. Talk about choking hazards. All right. I've eliminated that. Also, we've eliminated infants. If you want to talk about liability, let's talk about having babies and bottles and cribs. Oh my, we've eliminated all of that, because the children that are coming to us, they're walking, talking, they're ready for education. We do have children that start with us at 18 months. Majority of our program is for 2 to 6 year olds. Okay. So that is completely different. And lastly, I've eliminated that transportation, right? You want liability? You want to bus a bunch of 5-year-olds around? I don't. So those three big things, we've eliminated all that liability, and we just get to do the fun stuff. We get to do the education, we get to do the art, and we get to do all of the programming that education is losing right now and has lost for those ages. And I'm glad and I'm excited for what we've done over the last 18 years to bring it back.
That's great. I love that.
Well, Andrea, do you want to take us across the finish line with some rapid fire questions?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So Kris usually does this, but I'm going to take over here, Drew. So, all right. Think of just one thing that you would tell anybody who's contemplating becoming a franchisee, not necessarily Ivybrook, any franchise. What's one thing you would give them as advice?
Good question. I would say find out who the top performing franchisees are in that brand, become their best friend. They have secrets to success, and you need to buy them lunch, send them flowers, do something, have them share their tips and tricks, because the franchisor is going to share them, but it also helps to have a peer and a friend to be able to bounce ideas off of. And I wish people did that more.
Yeah, I totally agree. Being a franchise owner, that was where I learned so much, calling other people. Give us the one thing, if you're a new franchise first year, what's something that advice you'd give that person in the first year besides calling other franchisees?
I would say trust the systems and the processes that the franchisor has put in place. I have seen I'm friends with other franchisors that we all share secrets and share stories. But I'm a big believer, and I share a book with all of my franchisees as soon as they sign up. It's called Profitable Partnerships. I'm a big believer in it. And it basically lays the groundwork for the mentality of being a business owner, specifically a franchisee. And it lets people know exactly the mentality of what is to come. And they're going to test the system, they're going to try the system, but eventually at the end of the day, they're going to realize the process and systems that are put in place are best. Don't deviate from them. If you have an idea to enhance the brand, that's great, but don't break free from the mold and the business plan and the model that is put before you without first seeking to understand it.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Drew, we appreciate you coming on the podcast today. I think just learning about Ivybrook, learning about, everything that the advantage that you have compared to a daycare, really telling us about that, the advantage of having a half day program versus a full day, and one that's focused more on education, the curriculum that you want. And then just really talking about your franchisees. They're not people that are coming necessarily from education. They're people that are passionate about seeing children be educated. I think that's really important for people to know. And so we appreciate your time today. And for those of you listening, if you're considering franchising as a potential path to business ownership, remember, there's no one size fits all franchise that suits everyone. Even so, there's certainly a franchise out there that's perfect for you. To explore your options and find that perfect franchise match, please visit us at theperfectfranchise.com. By clicking on Let's Talk, you can schedule time to talk with one of the consultants on our team. We look forward to connecting with you. Until our next episode, take care.